Kanto has always carried a quiet kind of mystery, one that lingers underneath the familiar routes, bright cities, and iconic landmarks that shaped the earliest days of the Pokemon world. Even though players know the region like the back of their hand, there are countless theories woven through its forests, caves, laboratories, and ruins, small, unanswered details that invite imagination to fill the gaps. These theories aren't loud or dramatic. They feel like gentle questions floating beneath the surface of nostalgia. And as you drift further into the calm of the night, the theories of Kanto unfold like a soft whisper, carrying you back to a world where every shadow, every abandoned building, and every half-remembered story holds a secret waiting to be uncovered. One of the oldest theories begins with the strange peace that surrounds Pallet Town. For a place so quiet and untouched, many fans believe it was intentionally built as a neutral zone, a region free of Pokemon battles to encourage safe upbringing. Some think Professor Oak was responsible for helping establish that rule after witnessing the destruction caused by powerful Pokemon in his younger years. His calm demeanor and gentle encouragement toward trainers might be more than just personality. It may reflect a belief that young trainers need a peaceful foundation before stepping into the complexities of the world. It's a theory that paints Oak not just as a researcher, but as a protector of childhood innocence. From there, the world widens into Viridian Forest, a place many suspect is far older than the surrounding towns. Some believe it might be the remains of a once massive ancient woodland that covered most of Kanto. When players walk through the forest's narrow paths, it feels almost sacred, a place where time has slowed. Beedrill patrol the trees like guardians, and Pikachu appear rarely but deliberately, as if tied deeply to the forest's energy. One theory suggests Viridian Forest was once home to a forgotten tribe that revered bug types and protected the land from external influence. The lingering presence of rare Pokemon might be echoes of a culture that lived in harmony with nature long before the modern cities existed. The mysteries of Kanto only deepen along Route 4 and into Mount Moon, where theories surrounding Clefairy have existed since the earliest days of the franchise. The idea that Clefairy descended from the stars isn't just a myth. The region's lore practically confirms it. But fans have long wondered whether Mount Moon itself is more than just a mountain. Perhaps it is a very old meteor fragment, a remnant of something cosmic. The sparkling stones, the unusual cave layout, the presence of moonstones, they all point to a site touched by forces far beyond Kanto. Some believe the Clefairy aren't just visitors from space, but guardians of a celestial object that crashed long before humans settled the region. It adds a gentle layer of wonder to every footstep inside the glowing cave. Then there's Cerulean Cave, one of the most enigmatic locations in all of Kanto. Long before players meet the powerful creature waiting at its deepest point, the cave gives off an unmistakable feeling of abandonment mixed with danger. Some theorists believe the cave wasn't formed naturally. Its unnatural shape, sealed passages, and sudden shifts in elevation hint at excavation or even structural collapse. One popular theory suggests the cave was part of a failed research facility or perhaps a sanctuary meant to contain powerful Pokemon. When it fell apart or was deemed unsafe, it was sealed until the strongest Pokemon known in the region took it over. The idea that Mewtwo didn't simply wander into Cerulean Cave, but was drawn there by an echo of the past, gives the location a haunting sense of history. Another long-standing theory revolves around Lavender Town, its somber atmosphere, and the iconic Pokemon Tower. The grief that permeates the air feels too deep to be accidental. Some believe the tower stands on the ruins of an even older building, possibly a shrine dedicated to the spirits of Pokemon lost in ancient conflicts. The unusual music and the sense of presence inside the tower make some theorists wonder if the structure amplifies psychic energy. This would explain why ghost types gather there, not out of loneliness, but because the tower acts like a beacon, a place where the world of the living and the world beyond align. If true, Lavender Town may be one of the most spiritually charged areas in the Pokemon world, a quiet crossroads between memory and mystery. Other theories look at the interconnectedness of Kanto's routes and landmarks, noticing patterns that suggest deliberate design. Some researchers believe the ancient builders of Kanto, long before the modern cities, purposely aligned major landmarks with natural energy lines. The Indigo Plateau, Mount Silver, and Victory Road all sit on a line that fans refer to as Kanto's axis, a symbolic path representing strength, growth, and mastery. Even the gyms seem positioned in a way that represents a gradual ascent, not just in power, but in spiritual journey. Pewter City's museum introduces history, Cerulean focuses on emotion, Vermilion teaches courage, Celadon represents wisdom, and Saffron tests discipline. Whether coincidence or not, the structure of the region feels oddly meaningful, as if trainers aren't just collecting badges, but following an ancient path of self-development. Kanto's water routes add more layers to its mysteries. Many believe the seas surrounding Cinnabar Island hide the remains of lost settlements swallowed by volcanic activity. The presence of the Pokemon Mansion strengthens this theory. The building appears far older than its current state, with architectural choices that don't match the island's simple fishing culture. Some suggest it was originally a research monastery, a quiet place where early Pokemon scholars gathered to study evolution and genetic variation long before modern labs existed. The later experiments involving Mew might have been built upon knowledge discovered in that ancient facility, creating a lineage of scientific pursuit that spans centuries. One theory that has captured imaginations for years concerns the strange parallel between Kanto and the real world's Kansai region of Japan. Some fans suggest the similarities aren't just geographical, but cultural. Pewter City mirrors ancient stonemasonry traditions. Celadon echoes the commerce of large merchant cities. Saffron resembles modern corporate centers. These parallels fuel the idea that Kanto represents not just a physical region, but a symbolic retelling of Japan's growth, from quiet villages to metropolitan hubs. This theory transforms the region into a metaphor for change, and every route becomes a quiet lesson in how worlds evolve in harmony with tradition. Perhaps one of the most intriguing theories is the idea that Kanto once experienced a massive war hinted at subtly by Lieutenant Surge and other NPCs. If true, many landmarks might be remnants of that conflict. The abandoned power plant, the hidden bunkers on routes 9 and 10, and even the sparse adult population. The war theory paints Kanto as a region recovering from trauma, slowly rebuilding through peaceful competition and research. Pokemon battles, in this context, become a symbolic replacement for true conflict, a gentle way to continue training and discipline without repeating the past's devastation. Kanto is filled with small, unanswered details like these, not meant to frighten, but to intrigue. They give the region depth without requiring the player to uncover everything. That's what makes these theories so comforting. They allow time and imagination to gently transform familiar places into something richer, something older, something filled with possibility. As you continue your journey through these theories, the region feels less like a collection of towns and routes, and more like a living storybook, every page filled with lore, every whisper of wind hinting at a deeper truth. Kanto remains the beginning of countless adventures, but its mysteries show that even the most familiar places still hold quiet secrets left to explore. Kanto's mysteries deepen the longer you stay within its borders, as though each town and each forgotten lab carries its own quiet echo of the past. As you move deeper into this world, its theories begin to intertwine, forming threads that stretch back decades and sometimes even centuries before our journey ever began. The region presents itself simply on the surface: bright towns, friendly gyms, familiar landscapes, but beneath all that sunlight lies a web of stories and unanswered questions that together shape one of the oldest and most fascinating regions in the Pokemon world. The calm rhythm of Kanto's fields and forests hides secrets that linger like shadows, barely visible until you slow down enough to notice them. One of the most enduring theories revolves around the strange connection between Kanto's technology and its unusually high concentration of man-made or modified Pokemon. Even regions with advanced cities don't see quite the same number of artificially created species as Kanto does. Magnemite, Magneton, Voltorb, Electrode, Porygon, and even Mewtwo form an unusual cluster of mechanical or engineered Pokemon, all originating from one region. This pattern makes researchers wonder whether Kanto experienced an early technological boom long before the events of the games, one that never made it into official history because the results may have been too dangerous or controversial. The presence of the abandoned power plant, the ruined Pokemon Mansion, and even Silphco's questionable experiments hint at generations of scientists pushing boundaries in ways the world wasn't fully prepared for. These connections lead directly into the theory that the Pokemon Mansion incident wasn't the first time Kanto witnessed a catastrophic research failure. It might simply be the one recorded in modern documents. What if decades earlier, another experiment went wrong, one responsible for the strange appearances of ghost-like Pokemon throughout the region? Ghastly, Haunter, and Gengar appear in Kanto in unusual numbers compared to other regions, especially within ancient structures. The Pokemon Tower is the only large burial monument in any mainline region, suggesting that Kanto had a uniquely complicated relationship with death, spirits, and the supernatural. Some theorists propose that old experiments attempting to understand the boundary between life and Pokemon energy may have caused an early surge in ghost-type manifestations, creating a cultural fear that eventually led to the construction of the tower as a way to appease them. Lavender Town's solemn atmosphere only intensifies this theory. Unlike other towns, which often incorporate modern buildings or advanced technology, Lavender feels trapped in time, with small houses and quiet streets untouched by progress. It's as if the world moved on, but Lavender chose not to. Some believe this wasn't a stylistic choice. It was caution. Perhaps the people of Lavender witnessed something that made them distrust technology and emotional manipulation, choosing instead to focus on peace, remembrance, and spiritual practice. The constant presence of channelers within the Pokemon Tower suggests a long tradition of communication with spirits, one that may have arisen as a protective measure after a past event in which too many souls lingered without rest. This line of thinking connects to another fascinating theory about ghost-type Pokemon in Kanto, that some of them did not originate from natural ecosystems at all. Ghastly, for example, is described as being made almost entirely of gas and spiritual energy, yet it exhibits sentience and structured behavior. If Kanto's past research attempted to manipulate Pokemon life energy or revive extinct species, the resulting failures may have manifested as gaseous anomalies that eventually stabilized into the ghost Pokemon we know today. It would explain why Kanto's ghost types seem especially tied to human structures, abandoned labs, sacred towers, and even old towns. They linger near places shaped by human influence rather than wild landscapes. Another theory centers around the unusual distribution of fossils within Kanto. Fossil Pokemon like Kabuto, Omanite, and Aerodactyl can be revived in the lab at Cinnabar Island, yet Kanto's environment shows no evidence that these ancient species ever lived there naturally. Their remains appear mostly as isolated finds, as if they were imported or relocated long after they became extinct. This has led some to believe that Kanto's prehistoric history might be incomplete. Perhaps a lost era existed where ancient Pokemon were artificially preserved or cloned, only for the effort to collapse and the technology to be buried. The fragmentary ruins on Cinnabar, the volcanic activity, and the island's isolation suggest that centuries ago it may have served as a kind of experimental repository, storing genetic samples and research materials until disaster consumed the facilities. What we see today may only be the remnants of something much larger. This theory blends seamlessly with the long-held suspicion that the Pokemon world underwent a massive ecological reset centuries before recorded history. Many Johto legends hint at floods, burning waves of energy, and great wars among Pokemon, disasters that could have affected Kanto as well. If an ancient calamity wiped out whole ecosystems, it would explain why fossil Pokemon are so rare and why so many modern Pokemon show signs of adaptation to human-dominated environments. Kanto may have been one of the earliest regions to rebuild after such an event, leaning heavily on artificial research to restore populations or reconstruct missing species. In this interpretation, Silphco, Team Rocket, and Cinnabar's researchers are not anomalies, they are simply continuing a long tradition of human intervention dating back to a time when reconstruction was necessary for survival. Another enduring mystery surrounds the origins of the legendary birds, Articuno, Zapdos, and Moltres. Their presence in Kanto seems almost arbitrary compared to other legendaries tied tightly to regional histories, yet theories suggest they may have played a pivotal role during an ancient crisis. Some believe that the birds once governed natural balance across the region, ice cooling volcanic forces, lightning revitalizing the land, and fire purifying corruption. Over time, their influence diminished as humans learned to harness technology. This might explain why they seem more like wandering forces of nature than guardians tied to a single location. Their shrines or territory markers have long since vanished, leaving only scattered sightings across the region. A particularly intriguing theory suggests that the Sevi Islands once held the original temples dedicated to the three birds. Their unusual climates, volcanic activity, and storm patterns match the birds' elemental themes. Modern ruins on the islands, though not explicitly linked to the birds, contain carvings and symbols whose meaning has been lost. Some believe these structures were once places where people attempted to communicate with or appease the legendary trio, maintaining balance between fire, ice, and electricity. When the islands drifted politically and geographically from Kanto, the connection faded, and the birds became free-roaming forces rather than localized guardians. Kanto's many abandoned or isolated locations reinforce the idea that it's a region built on top of forgotten history. Consider the Seafoam Islands, a place where Articuno roosts among frozen caverns, despite the surrounding waters being warm enough to sustain seal, dugong, and even fiery Pokemon. Why such extreme cold inside a tropical cave system? Some speculate that the islands once served as natural thermal vents until the presence of Articuno drastically altered the climate inside. Or perhaps the caves themselves were once used to store ancient ice-type research materials, and Articuno simply claimed the territory after humans abandoned it. In either case, the islands feel like a place shaped by intentional design, not just natural erosion. Then there is the mystery of Cerulean Cave, a location so dangerous and unpredictable that the League restricts all entry except for the most capable trainers. What exactly created such an environment? Theories suggest the cave may have been a failed research site, similar to Cinnabar Mansion, but much older. The strange mix of powerful Pokemon inside, including species far stronger than those native to Kanto, hints at artificial relocation. Why would such creatures congregate there? Perhaps something about the cave's energy, electromagnetic fields, or subterranean minerals draws them in. Or perhaps something buried below the cave once emitted a force that attracted strong Pokemon, a beacon left over from forgotten experiments or ancient rituals. The most famous theory, of course, involves the mysterious presence of Mewtwo within Cerulean Cave. If the Pokemon Mansion experiment produced Mewtwo on Cinnabar Island, why is its final refuge so far away? Some believe Cinnabar was only one part of a larger network of research facilities. When Mewtwo escaped, it may have sought out the point of highest psychic resonance in the region, the deepest part of Cerulean Cave. This suggests the cave was not random, but a location with unusual psychic or geological properties that attracted a being as powerful as Mewtwo. That idea alone opens up countless possibilities about what lies beneath the cave floor, still undiscovered, still humming quietly with energy. Kanto's connections to other regions deepen this web of theories even further. Johto's towers tell stories of balance between birds, yet Kanto's birds appear disconnected from that narrative. Kalos reveals ancient wars involving legendary weapons, suggesting global conflicts that likely reached Kanto as well. Sinnoh's myths speak of beings that shaped matter and time, implying that Kanto's oldest landscapes may hold traces of creation as well. All of this suggests that Kanto is not just the first region, it's the crossroads of many forgotten stories. Its ruins, towers, islands, and caves are pieces of a larger puzzle scattered across generations. That's the beauty of Kanto's lore. It doesn't give answers. It gives hints, echoes, and fragments waiting to be assembled. It's a region that feels simple until you look closely, and then the mysteries begin to reveal themselves, quietly, patiently, like shadows shifting in candlelight. Every tower, every abandoned building, every ghost, every fossil, every artificial Pokemon, every legendary bird, they all whisper their own version of history. And as you follow those whispers through the region, you begin to understand why Kanto remains one of the most endlessly theorized places in the Pokemon world. Its mysteries are not loud. They are subtle, atmospheric, woven into calm landscapes that invite contemplation rather than spectacle. And somewhere in those quiet spaces, between the rustling routes and moonlit caves, the truth of Kanto's forgotten past still lingers, waiting, like everything else in this region, for someone patient enough to piece it together. The mysteries of Kanto only deepen the longer you linger within them, as if the region itself enjoys being half understood. Every route, every abandoned building, every quiet lake seems to hum with unanswered questions. Even the most ordinary places hold fragments of stories that never fully reveal themselves, leaving room for theories that drift through the region like a soft nighttime breeze. As the world settles into sleep, Kanto's hidden history emerges piece by piece, sometimes in whispers from the past, sometimes in traces left behind by Pokemon whose origins have never been clearly explained. One of the most lingering questions surrounds the existence of certain Pokemon that seem to appear in Kanto with no clear ecological origin. Take the case of Mr. Mime, a humanoid Pokemon whose mannerisms, posture, and behavior feel eerily close to human performance art. Some scholars suggest that Mr. Mime may have originally been a species closely related to humans before diverging into its own evolutionary line. Others propose an even stranger theory that Mr. Mime's uncanny skills in pantomime might be inherited from an ancient ritualistic tradition, a forgotten form of storytelling that once existed in Kanto long before the region became what it is today. Whatever the truth is, the idea that certain Pokemon may reflect older human customs blurs the line between humanity and Pokemon in ways that challenge long held assumptions about their relationship. But Kanto's theories extend far beyond single species. Entire locations carry mysteries. The strange layout of Diglett's cave, for example, has caused speculation for generations. Why does the tunnel system stretch so far beneath the region, connecting distant cities with unnatural precision? Some believe the tunnels predate modern Kanto entirely, and that Diglett simply moved into a system that was originally carved by something much larger. A few even whisper about a prehistoric ground-type Pokemon, something massive, ancient, and long extinct that might have created the tunnels for reasons lost to time. Whether Diglett expanded the original pathways or claimed them after their original makers vanished, the cave remains one of Kanto's most unexplained geological features. Another enduring mystery touches on the strange relationship between Pokemon species who appear to share design elements that imply deeper connections. The Clefairy and Jigglypuff evolutionary lines both feature round, pink bodies and unusually strong lunar associations, but only Clefairy is explicitly linked to Mount Moon. This has led some theorists to suggest that Jigglypuff once shared that connection before losing its cosmic traits over time. Maybe, long ago, both species were part of a single group of lunar creatures who came to Kanto together. Over generations, environmental differences might have split their paths, with Clefairy staying closer to their origins and Jigglypuff becoming more grounded, losing the celestial influence that shaped them. If this were true, then Jigglypuff's hypnotic singing could be a remnant of an ancient ability once used to communicate through the stars. The wildest theories often center around Kanto's interactions with forces not entirely of this world. The recurring reports of Pokemon that display magnetic abnormalities like Magnemite, Magneton, and even the peculiar hints about Porygon suggest that Kanto may be a region particularly attuned to strange energy fields. Some believe these fields might be remnants of an event in ancient times, something cosmic that passed close to the world and left behind traces of electromagnetic residue. Over thousands of years, certain species may have been shaped by those energies, slowly adapting until Magneton's ability to emit powerful magnetic waves became second nature. If true, then the region's magnetic Pokemon aren't isolated oddities at all. They could be descendants of a global phenomenon whose effects were strongest in Kanto. Lavender Town, one of the most iconic places in the Pokemon world, remains the centerpiece of countless theories, some gentle, some unsettling, all fascinating. The Pokemon Tower rises over the town like a quiet sentinel, carrying the grief and memories of generations. But some believe the tower was not the first grand structure built on that hill. Archaeological hints suggest that the site may once have been home to a ceremonial structure used by an ancient group that worshipped the boundary between life and death. This group may have believed that ghost-type Pokemon were guides rather than threats, intermediaries between the physical world and a deeper spiritual realm. According to this theory, the modern Pokemon Tower stands atop the ruins of a much older shrine, and the energy of the place is so strong because it has served as a gateway for centuries. Even the infamous Marowak ghost has inspired speculation. While its story seems clear, a mother protecting her child even after death, some historians propose a deeper meaning. They believe the ghost may not have been solely the spirit of a single Pokemon, but a manifestation of many lost souls, given form through powerful emotional resonance. In that interpretation, the Marowak figure is not one ghost, but a symbol created by grief itself. The moment Team Rocket disturbed the tower, that collective sorrow took shape, choosing the form of the species most deeply tied to the tragedy. It's an idea that adds depth to one of Kanto's most iconic moments, suggesting that the bond between Pokemon and place may be far more complex than we know. Cinnabar Island carries theories of its own, especially regarding the volcanic energy that seems to influence both the Pokemon and the research conducted there. Some scientists believe that the island's eruption was not entirely natural but triggered by a massive concentration of fire-type energy beneath the surface. Over centuries, the land may have absorbed power from generations of fire Pokemon migrating through or nesting near the volcano. When the pressure reached critical levels, the eruption occurred, reshaping the island and destroying structures that held secrets the region was never meant to fully discover. Whether connected to Mewtwo's creation or simply an unlucky convergence of natural forces, the truth remains, shrouded beneath layers of ash, lava, and unanswered questions. Even the ocean surrounding Kanto holds its own mysteries. The Seafoam Islands, with their icy caverns and unpredictable tides, have long been theorized to be remnants of an ancient glacier that once drifted across the region. Some believe the caves were not naturally hollowed out by water, but carved by a massive Pokemon whose presence predates even the earliest legends. If the seafoam caverns were shaped intentionally, perhaps the intent was to create a sanctuary, one later inherited by the legendary bird associated with ice. These theories suggest that Kanto's geography may reflect the movements of ancient Pokemon whose footsteps reshaped landscapes like a painter reshapes a canvas. The Safari Zone, too, remains one of the region's most peculiar mysteries. Why do so many foreign species appear there, seemingly without ecological paths connecting them to the rest of Kanto? One theory suggests that the Safari Zone is not a natural habitat at all, but a massive controlled experiment originally intended to study cross-regional adaptation. According to this idea, the Warden may be part of a lineage of scientists who have monitored Pokemon behavior for generations. Another theory proposes something more whimsical, that the Safari Zone lies on an unusual intersection of migration routes, a place where Pokemon from distant regions instinctively gather without understanding why. Whether scientific or mystical, the idea that certain places naturally draw life from afar adds a sense of quiet wonder to Kanto's map. And of course, there are the theories around Ditto. Few Pokemon spark as much speculation as this formless creature whose transformation abilities are unmatched. Many theorists believe Ditto's pink coloration, weight, and genetic malleability are not coincidences, they are clues. The long-standing theory that Ditto may be the failed result of experiments involving a mythical Pokemon continues to inspire debate. Some argue that Ditto existed long before those experiments and simply served as the natural inspiration for synthetic attempts at creation. Others believe Ditto may be older still, a primordial entity representing the earliest stage of life, capable of becoming anything because it predates defined forms altogether. Whatever the truth is, Ditto's existence challenges the boundaries of biology, evolution, and even identity. Kanto's origins remain the greatest mystery of all. While modern culture paints it as a region defined by bustling cities, peaceful towns, and iconic routes, many believe it was once something very different, a land shaped by small, Powerful tribes aligned with specific Pokemon. Some theorize that these tribes worshipped not just the legendary birds, but elemental forces that existed long before them. Ruins, scattered throughout Kanto, hint at cultures older than the Indigo Plateau, perhaps even older than the concept of Pokemon training itself. These civilizations may have lived in harmony with ancient species long vanished or evolved beyond recognition. Their stories, lost to time, might still echo faintly through the caves, forests, and mountains of Kanto, waiting for someone to piece them together. And that's the beauty of Kanto's mysteries. They aren't meant to be solved conclusively, they're meant to linger, to hum quietly at the edge of imagination, inviting trainers to wonder what lies beneath the region's familiar landscapes. Every unanswered question is a doorway to another possibility, another theory, another piece of lore waiting to be discovered. Even as you drift deeper into rest, those mysteries continue to glow softly, like faint lights across Kanto at night, guiding, comforting, and reminding you that the world is richer when it keeps a few secrets. Deep within Kanto's oldest myths, there is an idea that the region itself remembers everything. Every battle, every migration, every ancient ritual, all of it lingers in the land like echoes drifting through time. Many theories about Kanto's Pokemon stem from this belief, the idea that the region's oldest species carry memories older than written history. As trainers travel from Pewter's stone-gray cliffs to the glowing ports of Vermilion, they pass through layers of forgotten stories. These theories rise from those stories like mist from the grass, offering quiet clues to how Kanto became the heart of the Pokemon world. One theory suggests that the original three Kanto starters, Bulbasaur, Charmander, and Squirtle, were not created by science or discovered naturally, but shaped by Kanto's earliest settlers. According to old mural fragments found near Mount Moon, ancient tribes once lived in harmony with a trio of guardian creatures that resembled protoforms of these iconic Pokemon. Bulbasaur's plant bulb, Charmander's flame, and Squirtle's shell may have been symbolic tools used in rituals representing growth, willpower, and resilience. Some believe these early guardians influenced the eventual natural evolution of their species, their traits becoming biologically encoded over generations until the modern forms emerged. It's an elegant explanation for why the three starters feel so perfectly balanced, nature and culture shaping them together. Another theory centers on the mysterious connection between Pidgeot and the weather patterns of Kanto. Observers have long noted that whenever large numbers of Pidgeot take to the sky, winds shift in unusual ways, storms weaken, sea breezes calm, and sometimes rogue whirlwinds appear without warning. Some researchers believe Pidgeot's wings generate microcurrents strong enough to subtly influence regional climates, and that ancient sailors used their behavior to predict storms. It's said the Vermilion Lighthouse once kept a journal exclusively dedicated to Pidgeot sightings. If this is true, then the bird known for its elegance may have quietly guided maritime travel for centuries, long before modern navigation existed. The Pokemon found near Mount Moon inspire countless theories, each tied to the region's past as a meteor impact zone. One widespread belief suggests that Clefairy's ability to sense lunar cycles is far deeper than just a biological quirk. Because Clefairy arrived on Earth during an ancient celestial event, some theorists think their species carries fragments of cosmic memory, not literal intelligence, but instinctual impressions passed down through generations. This cosmic lineage might explain why Clefairy dance during full moons, why they gather near meteorite fragments, and why their evolution into Clefable gives them abilities bordering on supernatural. If any Pokemon could remember a time before Earth was their home, it would be them. A related theory concerns the Moonstone itself. While most consider it a simple evolutionary catalyst, some researchers propose that moonstones emit a faint but complex radiation similar to dormant star matter. This radiation may awaken latent traits in certain Pokemon, nudging them toward evolution paths that mirror their extraterrestrial origins. The idea suggests that evolution by moonstone is not transformation, but remembrance, a return to a form these Pokemon once possessed on distant worlds. It's an idea that sounds unbelievable at first, until one stands on Mount Moon on a cloudless night and watches fragments of the stone glow faintly like fallen stars. Moving from the stars to the seas, Tentacruel has long been a source of oceanic myths. Sailors whisper about a colossal, almost legendary Tentacruel that appears once every few generations during massive tides, its silhouette larger than any recorded specimen. This phenomenon, known in folklore as the 10th Wave Guardian, may stem from real-life population blooms where Tentacruel gather in massive numbers near coastal reefs. During these events, the jellyfish float in tight formation, creating the illusion of a single gigantic creature. Combining their bioluminescent pulses, they light up the sea like a drifting constellation. While there is no confirmed single Tentacruel of impossible size, the theory persists because the ocean itself can conjure illusions that become indistinguishable from legends. Another theory explores the strange connection between Hypno and the dream energy of Kanto. Hypno's pendulum is said to resonate at a frequency close to that of human REM brain waves, allowing it to sense emotional patterns even from a distance. Some researchers speculate that this ability acts like a tuning fork, aligning Hypno with unconscious minds. This has led to the eerie idea that all Hypnos share a dream network, a silent mental web created by years of interacting with human dreams. When one Hypno learns a new emotional signal or encounters a rare psychological state, that knowledge may filter through the entire species. If true, Hypno would be one of the most interconnected Pokemon in existence, with a collective subconscious shaped by the dreams of Kanto's people. Lavender Town and its iconic tower are home to some of the oldest theories in the region, particularly regarding Ghastly, Haunter, and Gengar. One theory argues that these ghostly forms represent different stages of emotional energy rather than life and death. Ghastly, composed mostly of gas, embodies transient feelings, fear, hesitation, fleeting memories. Haunter represents the transition between emotion and identity, developing limbs and expressions as feelings grow stronger. Gengar, the most solid of the three, symbolizes emotions that linger, attachments that refuse to fade. This interpretation aligns with their behavior in the wild. Ghastly often drift aimlessly, Haunter show curiosity and mischief, and Gengar form long-term bonds, watching over people or places with surprising loyalty. If emotions can echo through time, then Gengar may be the closest thing to physicalized memory. A more scientific theory suggests that Gengar's ability to hide inside shadows may indicate an evolutionary adaptation rather than an otherworldly trait. According to this idea, Gengar manipulates light absorption through an organ similar to chromatophores found in deep-sea creatures. Instead of changing color, Gengar alters its reflectivity until it merges seamlessly with surrounding darkness. This camouflage mechanism might be why Gengar are often mistaken for literal spirits. They appear and vanish with the fluidity of a living shadow. The theory doesn't diminish their mystique. Rather, it enhances it by grounding supernatural legends in biological adaptation. Few Pokemon have sparked as much speculation as Mr. Mime. One theory proposes that its humanoid appearance is not a coincidence, but the result of convergent evolution. As humans and Pokemon lived side by side for millennia, some species adapted to mimic human posture and behavior to improve cooperation. Mr. Mime may have evolved expressive hands, facial features, and body proportions that helped it serve as an intermediary between wild Pokemon and early human communities. Its invisible barriers, once used for survival, eventually became tools for performance and communication. According to this theory, Mr. Mime is not strange. It's a species perfectly adapted to human presence, a testament to how deeply Pokemon and people can influence one another's evolution. Another intriguing theory revolves around Ditto. Many believe Ditto to be a failed attempt to recreate Mew, but there's a softer, lesser known theory. Ditto represents the universe's natural tendency toward simplicity. In a world filled with hyper-specific evolution lines, types, and biological traits, Ditto's amorphous body may reflect a primordial state, the baseline form from which many species later evolved. This view suggests that Ditto isn't an experiment or mutation, but the original canvas of life in the Pokemon world. Its ability to replicate other Pokemon perfectly could then be seen not as imitation, but as memory, a genetic echo of forms that evolved from its ancient lineage. Kanto's regional birds also inspire deeper theories, especially Firo. Unlike Pidgeot, whose flight is elegant and smooth, Firo tears through the sky with a raw, piercing precision. Some historians believe Firo evolved during a harsh climatic era when storms, droughts, and migrating predators made survival on the open plains difficult. Its body became angular, its wings sharper, and its beak elongated for piercing prey through tough hides. This theory explains why Firo seems so ancient compared to modern birds, a relic of a time when the skies were dangerous and every creature had to be a warrior to survive. Even the ground beneath Kanto hides mysteries. Diglett and Dugtrio have inspired endless speculation about their unseen bodies. Some theorists believe that what we see above ground is merely a sensory organ, a small fraction of a much larger subterranean body. According to seismic readings taken during Dugtrio migrations, there are unexplained tremors far deeper than the Pokemon could reasonably reach. These tremors resemble patterns of coordinated movement, as if multiple underground limbs shift simultaneously. If true, then Dugtrio might be far more complex than surface observations suggest, possibly rivaling Onyx in subterranean scale. Team Rocket's influence over Kanto's history also fuels theories, especially regarding artificially altered Pokemon like the red Gyarados of Johto's Lake of Rage. Some scholars theorize that the red coloration may not be unique to that event, but a natural recessive trait suppressed in most populations. According to this idea, the Lake of Rage phenomenon simply triggered a widespread activation of the trait through forced evolution. This would mean Red Gyarados existed long before Team Rocket tampered with evolution energy, rare, majestic, and hidden from human eyes in the deep ocean. Ancient seafaring legends of crimson serpents lend credence to this idea, suggesting that the red form has appeared throughout history long before it was documented scientifically. And of course, no region inspires more theories about artificial and natural life mixing than Kanto. Magnemite and Magneton, for example, appear mechanical, yet they reproduce biologically. Some researchers believe these Pokemon are living organisms that adapted to metallic environments, developing magnetic bodies through generations of exposure to industrial materials. Their steel-like appearance could be the result of mineral absorption, much like how certain real-world creatures incorporate metal into their skeletons. This theory positions them not as robots, but as specialized organisms, shaped by a world that blends nature with technology. What binds all these theories together is a simple truth. Kanto is a region built on mystery. Every forest, cave, coastline, and mountain carries stories older than recorded history. The Pokemon who thrive there aren't just creatures, they're fragments of the world's memory, living pieces of a puzzle that trainers have tried to understand for generations. And as long as those mysteries remain, Kanto will continue to inspire theories, gentle whispers from a region where the past breathes softly through every shadow, waiting patiently for someone to listen. In the quiet corners of Kanto's history, far from the well-documented battles and iconic gym stories, there are theories that linger like faint echoes from another era. These theories drift between the borders of canon and imagination, shaped by unusual Pokédex entries, obscure NPC dialogue, and unexplained details hidden within the games. And while none of them have confirmed answers, they weave together into an atmosphere that makes Kanto feel older, deeper, and far more mysterious than it first appears. The region has always had a distinct tone: the simple towns, the sparse wilderness, the minimal explanation behind so many ancient locations, and that tone makes these theories feel strangely plausible, as though Kanto's story was never meant to be fully understood, only felt. One of the most enduring Kanto theories revolves around an idea that has followed the region since the earliest days: the concept of a quiet conflict, or what many fans refer to as Kanto's broken timeline. Evidence of this can be found in the background details of various games. There's mention of shortages, abandoned buildings, and entire towns that feel as though they were never fully completed. Vermilion City proudly hosts a war veteran as a gym leader. Celadon's layout suggests a bustling metropolis surrounded by surprisingly sparse towns. There are consistent references to fathers being absent in the early games. Some players theorize that Kanto is recovering from a recent war that reshaped its geography and society. The region's strange emptiness, its scattered infrastructure, and the mysterious Roketo Dan rising to fill power vacuums all feed into this quiet sense of recovery. Whether it was a conflict with another region or an event lost to time, the idea that Kanto is healing from something unspoken creates a fascinating lens through which its lore feels heavier and more lived in. Mount Moon adds another layer to Kanto's mysteries. At first glance, it's simply a cave filled with Zubat, hikers, and fossils, but the deeper you look, the stranger it becomes. Theories suggest that Mount Moon is far more significant than the story reveals, especially considering the glowing rocks, the presence of Clefairy, and the meteors that supposedly crashed long ago. Some theorists believe the mountain isn't just a fossil site, but a dormant extraterrestrial impact crater with ongoing cosmic activity. The luminosity in parts of the cave may hint at residual energy, perhaps similar to what powers Magneton in other regions. And the Clefairy dances under moonlight, long interpreted as adorable rituals, may actually be ancient traditions passed down by a species with extraterrestrial origins. The idea that Mount Moon functions as a celestial antenna, a place where Pokemon connected to cosmic events gather, fits surprisingly well with the region's quiet, mystical undertones. Everything about the location feels older and stranger than it appears, and that strangeness continues to live within the fan-built theories that surround it. Lavender Town, one of the most iconic locations in all of Pokemon, continues to inspire theories that blend mystery and melancholy. Its ghost-type lore, the tower, the unconfirmed haunting of specific floors, and the unsettling undertones of certain encounters suggest a deeper cultural significance to death in Kanto. Some theorists speculate that Lavender Town wasn't always a cemetery hub. Instead, it may have once been a thriving trade pass before a series of tragedies reshaped its purpose. The Marowak spirit that guards the tower in the original games shows that the boundary between the living and the dead is thinner in Kanto than anywhere else, and that allows theories about spiritual influence to take root. Many believe that Pokemon Tower, with its unique architecture and vertical design, may have been constructed over a ley line that strengthens ghostly phenomena. These theories propose that the entire town exists as a spiritual crossroads, a place where energy flows upward, allowing souls to linger. This gives the town its unique atmosphere and explains why so many ghost-type Pokemon appear naturally without any catalyst. Even Saffron City, a shining industrial giant, carries strange implications beneath its polished exterior. The existence of Silphco, a corporation capable of creating Pokeballs that manipulate space and prototypes that distort matter, suggests that Kanto's technological advancement outpaces its social development. This imbalance leads to theories that Sylph may have uncovered or reverse-engineered technology far older than the region itself. Items like the Master Ball feel almost too powerful to be man-made, and this has led some fans to consider the possibility that ancient civilizations developed techniques long before modern ones did. Perhaps Sylph stumbled upon relics in places like the ruins of Alph or Mount Silver, adapting forgotten mechanisms into tools of the present. Under this theory, Team Rocket's obsession with Silphco is more than greed. It's an attempt to seize control of ancient power rediscovered in modern form. The cycling road between Celadon and Fuchsia also carries an unusual feel. While the pathway itself seems straightforward, its depth below the route and the abandoned architecture beneath it suggest it once connected to something more substantial. Some fans theorize that the cycling road was built over a collapsed industrial line, possibly from Kanto's mysterious past conflict. The structural supports beneath it are strangely large for a simple path. Combined with the deep water that surrounds the region, it raises the possibility that remnants of old Kanto infrastructure lie submerged or buried, forgotten evidence of a time when the region was far more active and densely connected. These theories create a sense that the Kanto seen today is only a fragment of its former self, like exploring a quiet version of something once bustling. Even smaller details contribute to broader theories about the region. Take Viridian Forest, for example, a seemingly peaceful maze of Caterpie and Pidgey. On closer look, the forest feels too dense, too labyrinth-like to be natural. Some players believe it was intentionally grown or left unmanaged to shield Pallet Town from curious travelers. Oak's lab is positioned just beyond the forest, as though the world is meant to find him only after wandering through nature long enough to appreciate its complexity. In this theory, the forest acts as a filter. Only trainers with patience, curiosity, or determination reach Pallet's outskirts. Others see it as evidence of Kanto's approach to preserving nature, allowing the forest to grow freely as a symbol of something sacred. These ideas reinforce the feeling that Kanto isn't simply rural by coincidence, it's rural by design, a region frozen in a deliberate balance between progress and tradition. Seafoam Islands is another location that invites speculation. With its freezing caves, swirling currents, and ancient network of tunnels, it feels like a place shaped by forces older than recorded history. Theories often link it to Kanto's unseen geological past, suggesting it may have been part of a larger continent long before the current region formed. The presence of powerful cold air pockets, drifting ice, and the Pokemon that dwell there hints at a forgotten chain of natural disasters, perhaps glacial shifts or ancient storms. Some fans propose that Seafoam is the remnant of a massive ice-type ecosystem that once stretched far beyond Fuchsia's shores. Others go further, believing the islands hide deeper chambers that tie into the elemental balance of the world. While these ideas stretch beyond confirmed lore, the atmosphere of Seafoam Islands, quiet, cold, almost haunting in its stillness, makes them feel strangely possible. There are also theories about Kanto's gym leaders themselves, especially those who seem to carry unexplained histories. Sabrina, for instance, demonstrates psychic abilities far beyond any other known psychic type user in the early games, leading to speculation that she may have trained under a forgotten lineage of psychic practitioners. Her connection to Saffron, a city focused on technological growth, creates a thematic contrast, the psychic arts juxtaposed against machinery and industry. Some players wonder if Sabrina is one of the few remaining inheritors of a discipline that predates Sylph's rise, a discipline now overshadowed by modern science. Her strange dual existence across the anime and games only fuels that sense of mystery. Koga's presence in Fuchsia City has long been theorized to have ties to ancient traditions that existed long before the modern league was formed. His use of poison is not just strategic, it's ritualistic. Many believe he comes from a long line of protectors who once guarded Kanto's borders, using stealth and toxins not for violence but for defense. His promotion to the Elite Four in later games supports the idea that his skills weren't just gym techniques, but remnants of a deeper martial culture. This theory positions Fuchsia as a city with roots in ancient safeguarding, a place where traditional knowledge is preserved despite modern shifts. When combined with the Safari Zone, which itself feels like a carefully maintained boundary of wildness, Fuchsia becomes one of the clearest examples of how Kanto blends old and new. Even Team Rocket, the region's most infamous villain group, carries layers of implied history. Their influence stretches surprisingly far for an organization that supposedly rises within the story. They operate casinos, run smuggling networks, manipulate fossil machinery, and infiltrate major corporations. Theories propose that Team Rocket may not be a new group at all, but a continuation of older underground traditions, possibly remnants of Kanto's hypothetical war era. Their symbols, structures, and hidden operations all feel too organized for a freshly formed gang. Some believe Rocket's leadership inherits knowledge from previous generations, continuing cycles of power struggles that the League can never fully erase. Perhaps the most haunting theory involves Red's silence atop Mount Silver. Many players have speculated why he never speaks after becoming champion. Kanto is full of locations tied to memory, loss, and lingering emotion, and Mount Silver seems like a culmination of those themes. Under this theory, Red's quiet isn't stoicism or strength, it's symbolism. He stands alone at the highest point, representing the final step in a Kanto journey defined by solitude, perseverance, and unspoken emotion. He isn't hiding from the world, he's listening to it. The winds that echo through the frozen cliffs carry the weight of decades of Kanto's unspoken history, the forgotten battles, the lost towns, the old forests that still whisper. Red exists among those echoes, the silent witness to all the theories players continue to imagine. And that's what makes Kanto so endlessly intriguing. The region reveals just enough to spark curiosity, but never enough to settle it. Every forest feels older than it should. Every town feels shaped by something unseen. Every ruin hints at a story just slightly out of reach. Kanto is less a complete narrative and more a landscape of possibilities, a canvas where theories thrive like wild Pokémon, from ghost stories in Lavender to cosmic whispers in Mount Moon, from incomplete cities to silent champions. The region is defined by what it doesn't say, and it's the quiet between those details, the unanswered questions, the subtle patterns, that continues to make Kanto feel like a place of endless mystery, softly glowing, just beyond understanding. Kanto has always been the region of beginnings, and because of that, it naturally became the birthplace of countless theories, some whispered through old game manuals, others pieced together by fans who spent years walking the same pixelated routes, drawing meaning from every quiet detail. The more you explore this region, the more you realize how much of its story is told through absence: empty houses, silent forests, abandoned labs, missing records, and places where time seems to have stopped. These blank spaces let your imagination fill in the gaps, and it's in these gaps that the richest theories live, ideas that feel just plausible enough to be true, yet mysterious enough to stay in your mind long after the game's end. One of the most enduring theories revolves around the strange relationship between Sabrina and the mysterious psychics scattered throughout Kanto. In the games, psychic children appear in Saffron Gym who seem far too young to possess such advanced powers. Some fans believe they were students handpicked by Sabrina herself, individuals who were once ordinary kids but awakened their psychic potential after prolonged exposure to her influence. The theory suggests Sabrina's abilities aren't just natural, they're contagious, or at least resonant. Those who spend enough time near her begin to hear the same whispers, see the same flickers of energy, and unlock psychic gifts that would have stayed dormant otherwise. It paints Sabrina not as a simple gym leader, but as a beacon for latent psychic potential in the region, gathering gifted individuals the way a magnet draws filings. Another popular theory ties into the ancient history of Mount Silver. This towering mountain, cold and silent, is often seen as the final test for any trainer, but some fans believe it's actually far more ancient than any other location in Kanto. The strange energy readings described in later Pokédex entries and the presence of extremely powerful Pokémon suggest that Mount Silver may be the region's oldest habitat, older than Pallet Town, older than Viridian Forest, older than the Indigo Plateau itself. Some theorists think Mount Silver predates human settlement entirely, a remnant of the primordial world that existed before the regions were divided. According to this idea, the mountain may have once been a nesting ground for ancient and powerful species, the kind that existed before Pokémon and humans formed their first partnerships. This would explain why the mountain seems to call to especially strong trainers, why only those who reach near legendary strength feel compelled to climb it in the first place. Along the edges of Kanto's map lies another subtle mystery: the trading ports that connect Vermilion City to faraway regions. Vermilion has always been a hub for international travel, and because of that, it's also the origin point for theories about foreign Pokémon entering Kanto long before the games begin. Some believe that species like Magnemite, Voltorb, and even Drowsy might not be native at all. Instead, they may have arrived through decades of trade, deliberately or accidentally introduced from distant lands. The presence of the S and fuels these ideas. What if that ship wasn't just carrying tourists and trainers, but was actually transporting Pokémon that would eventually spread across the region? The idea that Kanto is a crossroads region shaped by centuries of foreign influence helps explain why some Pokémon seem strangely out of place compared to Kanto's otherwise organic ecosystem. The ports also tie into a lingering theory about Lieutenant Surge, one of the most mysterious gym leaders in the region. Surge often references a war, but the game never explains what war he fought in or who the enemy was. Some believe the conflict wasn't against humans at all, but against a swarm of invading Pokémon species that arrived from overseas. According to this idea, Lieutenant Surge didn't fight human armies. He led defensive forces trying to prevent ecological collapse. This would explain why his gym uses electricity defensively, why he's obsessed with speed and power, and why he's so grateful to electric-type Pokemon. Perhaps they truly saved his life during a crisis Kanto barely survived. The theory transforms Lieutenant Surge from a loud, confident soldier into someone who carries silent trauma from a battle the region has long forgotten. Far from the ports, deep within the grasses of Route 10, lies the crumbling power plant, an abandoned facility humming with an energy that shouldn't still exist. Its emptiness raises countless questions. Why build such a large plant in the middle of nowhere? Why leave it to decay? And why do electric-type Pokemon gather there as though drawn by something unseen? Some fans argue that the power plant was originally intended not just to generate electricity, but to study energy signatures that predate modern technology. If that's true, the plant may have been an attempt to understand something ancient beneath the water, something connected to the river system that flows through the entire region. The idea suggests that Kanto's oldest waterways may hide dormant power, which the power plant was attempting to harness or replicate. If Zapdos was attracted to the plant, perhaps it sensed a familiar type of energy, a reminder of the storms it once commanded long before humans built machines to imitate lightning. Another theory speculates on the relationship between Lavender Town and the unknown corners of the Pokemon world. Lavender is small, quiet, and modest compared to other towns, yet it houses Kanto's largest spiritual structure, a massive tower dedicated to the dead. This imbalance has always fascinated fans. Why would such an unassuming place bear such an important responsibility? Some believe Lavender was built on top of a supernatural convergence point, a place where the veil between living and dead is naturally thin. The Pokemon Tower wasn't constructed arbitrarily. It was built to contain, direct, or protect something that existed long before humans settled the area. The Pokemon Tower's architecture, strangely vertical and ritualistic, supports this theory. It looks less like a memorial and more like a seal, an anchor keeping something old and restless beneath the ground. The presence of ghost-type Pokemon adds another layer to Lavender's mystery. Ghastly, Haunter, and Gengar appear almost too frequently around the tower, as though drawn by more than simple spiritual energy. Some fans theorize that these ghosts aren't just the spirits of deceased Pokemon, but manifestations created by the tower itself, shadows given shape by the accumulated grief and energy of the region. If that's true, then Gengar, with its mischievous grin and habit of lurking in dark places, may be more connected to Lavender's past than anyone realizes. This idea reframes ghost types not as random hauntings, but as ancient protectors or guardians attracted to places where emotion gathers like fog. The connection between ghosts and science becomes even more intriguing when you travel south to Cinnabar Island. The island is home to Pokemon scientists and experiments, and on its outskirts sits a burning mystery, the remains of the old Pokemon Mansion. Theories surrounding the mansion are endless. Some think it was used to clone Pokemon. Others believe it accidentally created new species. But one rarely discussed idea ties Cinnabar to Lavender directly. According to this theory, the Pokemon Mansion wasn't just researching genetics. It was studying the nature of souls themselves. That would explain the strange diaries referencing failed experiments and strange behavior from test subjects. The scientists may have been trying to understand the connection between physical bodies and the energy that animates them, attempting to replicate life from memories or spiritual residue. If that's true, the presence of ghost-type Pokemon on Cinnabar isn't a coincidence. They were drawn there by experiments that blurred the line between life and death. North of these locations lies the mysterious cluster of islands known as the Sevi Islands, technically separate from Kanto, yet deeply connected to its lore. Some believe that ancient civilizations used these islands for rituals involving legendary Pokemon. The patterns etched into certain cliffs resemble constellations, hinting that the people of this region worshipped celestial beings long before modern myths emerged. If these civilizations spread into Kanto, they may have influenced structures like the Pokemon Tower, the ruins of Alph in Johto, and the various shrines scattered across early regions. This theory paints Kanto as one part of a much larger, interconnected ancient world where people once lived in harmony with forces now barely remembered. One particularly haunting theory suggests that the ghostly presence felt in Lavender Town predates every known settlement in the region. The idea goes that Kanto's earliest inhabitants encountered strange energies in the area, energies they couldn't understand, but instinctively respected. They may have built their early villages around lavender not out of convenience, but out of necessity, believing that the restless spirits needed to be honored rather than avoided. Over centuries, these early rites evolved into the customs seen in the games, bells, incense, memorial rituals, and the constant presence of mediums who can communicate with the unseen. According to this theory, modern Lavender Town is merely the last surviving piece of an ancient culture centered around maintaining balance between the living and the dead. Kanto's geography fuels more theories as you travel east toward the calm waters of Route 12. Many players have wondered why wild Pokemon like Snorlax appear as unique, singular encounters rather than normal species distributions. Some fans believe Snorlax are guardians assigned to protect natural waterways. Their immense size and peaceful demeanor make them perfect deterrents to those who would disrupt the ecosystem. According to this idea, each Snorlax chooses a resting place not randomly, but based on where its presence is needed most. This would explain why the two Snorlax in Kanto rest near bridges and water routes, areas vital to the health of the region. There's also the ongoing mystery of Viridian Forest, one of the earliest and most atmospheric places in the region. The forest is dense, quiet, and filled with Pokemon that seem strangely coordinated. Beedrill, Butterfree, Caterpie, Weedle, all part of complex life cycles that give the area a sense of natural intelligence. Some theories claim the forest operates almost like a single organism, with each species communicating subtly through pheromones, vibrations, and the shifting of leaves. Why else would Beedrill swarm only when provoked, or Butterfree gather near light beams that break through the trees? The theory suggests that Viridian Forest is the last untouched piece of a vast ancient ecosystem that once covered most of Kanto. What remains today is only a fraction of its former self, preserved due to its importance in the region's natural energy flow. Kanto is full of these small mysteries, quiet clues left along routes, in houses, in abandoned buildings, and in the empty spaces players walk through without thinking. These theories aren't just ideas. They're reminders that Kanto's world is deeper than its dialogue. Every silence has meaning, every shadow has history, every odd detail hints at something more. And somewhere in the middle of this region, filled with hidden stories, lies the heart of it all. An ordinary house in Pallet Town, where a young trainer begins a journey without knowing that every path ahead is shaped by mysteries older than the region itself. Kanto may seem simple on the surface, but beneath that simplicity lies a world shaped by forgotten wars, silent guardians, abandoned research, and echoes that never fully fade. Kanto's history becomes even more fascinating the longer you sit with its myths, because so many of its mysteries feel built into the land itself. When you look at the region as a whole, its layout feels intentional, almost like a story told through geography. The forests cluster toward nostalgia, the mountains carry hardship, the cities represent progress, and the coasts embody transition. And somewhere in the middle of all of that, woven into trails, caves, and old ruins lie theories that continue to pull people back into Kanto decades after its introduction. Many of these theories connect hidden details, strange coincidences, and unexplained lore fragments that players noticed without fully understanding why they felt important. But when pieced together gently, all of these fragments reveal that Kanto may have been designed with a deeper, quieter narrative living beneath the familiar journey. One of the most enduring theories centers on the idea that Kanto is a region slowly recovering from an unnamed past conflict. While Game Freak has never confirmed any official war storyline, subtle clues appear everywhere. Lutent, Surge's reference to saving your skin during the war, the noticeable lack of adult male NPCs, and the conspicuously large number of widows, elderly caretakers, and young children all give the region a strange demographic imbalance. Some fans theorize that Kanto's earlier generations fought a devastating large-scale battle, perhaps not between nations, but between factions divided by powerful Pokémon. The remnants of this conflict can be seen in the presence of abandoned power plants, destroyed habitats like the Seafoam Islands collapse zones, and the eerie isolation of places like Lavender Town. It's as though the region is filled with emotional aftershocks, quiet scars of a past no one discusses yet everyone still feels. This silence makes Kanto feel mysteriously heavy, as if the ground remembers more than the people do. Lavender Town remains the emotional center of those theories. According to some interpretations, the Pokemon Tower wasn't originally meant to be a graveyard. It was a radio tower repurposed after mass casualties created the need for a memorial. The tower's architecture, unusually tall and thin, resembles broadcasting structures more than religious ones. The unsettling music, the quiet atmosphere, and the ghostly apparitions all suggest a place repurposed from technology to mourning. Even the Marowak spirit follows this pattern, a single tragic story echoing a larger, unspoken grief. Some players believe the constant ghost interference may be a narrative metaphor for frequencies from a technologically active past that still haunt the present. Whether literal or symbolic, Lavender Town exists as proof that Kanto carries emotional weight beneath its bright surface. Theories around the psychic-type Pokemon in Kanto also hint at deeper mysteries. Abra, Kadabra, and Alakazam appear unusually human-like in intelligence, suggesting that their psychic evolution might not be natural. Kadabra's Pokédex entry mentioning a boy who woke up one day transformed has sparked endless speculation. Some interpret this as an accidental evolutionary trigger from psychic exposure. Others see it as folklore representing humanity merging with psychic energy. And then there are those who wonder if the Abra line was artificially enhanced long ago through experiments similar to the work that eventually produced Mewtwo. After all, the Pokemon Mansion on Cinnabar Island documents genetic research, but its notes are vague enough to imply a wider network of psychic investigation across the region. This raises the idea that Kanto may have once studied not just Mew's DNA, but psychic evolution itself, testing it, manipulating it, shaping it, until something unintended was created. This leads naturally to theories about Drowsy and Hypno, whose hypnotic abilities border on supernatural. Their design resembles the ancient dream-eating tapir of folklore, yet their behavior in the games hints at a darker past involvement with human psychic potential. Hypno's infamous entries describing it leading children away have always raised questions. Were these warnings based on isolated events or on research incidents gone wrong? Some fans believe Hypno's abilities are not predatory by nature, but the result of artificial psychic amplification, leaving the species in a fractured state, caught between instinct and enhanced power it was never meant to wield. That idea casts the psychic type as a whole in a more complex light, beings modified or influenced by human experimentation, creating abilities too strong to fully control. Even the placement of psychic type Pokemon in Kanto suggests intentional symbolism. Saffron City, the psychic hub of the region, is geographically located at the crossroads of every major path. It acts as a balance point, almost like the mind of the region, and within it sits the Sylph Co., building a technological powerhouse whose experiments eventually produced the Master Ball. Psychic abilities and advanced technology exist side by side in the same city, implying a connection between Kanto's intellectual evolution and human ambition. Sabrina herself represents this duality, young but immensely powerful, poised between control and instability. Her gym's strange teleportation puzzles may even be a metaphor for navigating thoughts and shifting emotional states, reflecting her difficulty regulating powers that feel larger than she is. Moving away from the psychological, another theory suggests that Kanto's legendary birds are not individual deities, but manifestations of natural forces shaped by the environment itself. In this interpretation, the region's climate extremes gave birth to Articuno, Zapdos, and Moltres as atmospheric responses storms crystallized into living form. The power plant, Seafoam Islands, and Victory Road are not random habitats, but places where energy pools and condenses. Articuno emerges where cold pockets intensify. Zapdos surfaces where raw electrical charge builds. Moltres rises in areas where tectonic heat reaches the surface. Rather than being gods, they are the sky, ice, and fire reacting to pressure. This theory adds a layer of poetic beauty to Kanto's natural world, framing the birds as living weather occurrences, the region breathing elemental life into reality. Cinnabar Island provides even richer theoretical territory. Many believe the island once housed ancient ruins predating the Pokémon Mansion by centuries. The volcanic geography, combined with scattered references to old experiments and strange fossils, gives the impression of a forgotten civilization. The old amber suggests the possibility that prehistoric flying Pokémon had a close relationship with early Kanto people. And the fact that Mew was discovered far from Kanto, yet researched exclusively in Cinnabar, raises questions about why the island was chosen. Some theorists argue that Cinnabar's volcanic structure contains unique energy signatures capable of amplifying genetic research. Others claim that Mew may have appeared on Cinnabar long before scientists recorded it, and that the ruins may hide carvings or structures hinting at lost interactions between humans and ancient Pokémon. Whatever the truth, Cinnabar feels like a place where history, science, and myth blur into one. Mount Moon is another location heavy with mystery. The constant meteorite fragments, the presence of Clefairy, and the unusual cave formations all support one of Kanto's most beloved theories that Clefairy may not be native to the region at all. Their dance under moonlight, their strange evolution through moonstones, and their apparent comfort with cosmic objects make them feel extraterrestrial. Some believe Clefairy's arrival influenced Kanto's early spiritual beliefs, inspiring rituals around moon cycles and celestial guidance. Their peaceful behavior around meteorites implies a connection with cosmic energy rather than simple habitat preference. Whether aliens or interdimensional travelers, Clefairy represent one of Kanto's gentlest mysteries creatures who arrived from the stars and blended into life with surprising ease. The relationship between Kanto's towns and their gyms also sparks endless speculation. Each gym leader seems carefully chosen to embody the spirit of its community. Vermilion City's obsession with machinery and shipping complements Lieutenant Surge's electric military background. Celadon's cultural richness mirrors Erica's traditional elegance. Fuchsia's secrecy and exotic wildlife align with Koga's ninja heritage, but some fans think these parallels are more deliberate than symbolic. They theorize that gym leaders are actually chosen through deep cultural tradition, each gym acting as a protective pillar assigned to preserve one aspect of Kanto's identity. Under this interpretation, the region isn't unified by mere governance, but by guardian figures chosen to maintain harmony between progress, tradition, nature, and spirituality. Gym badges would then represent not just proof of strength, but acknowledgement of understanding tokens given to those who pass tests of character embedded within each gym's philosophy. Even the Pokemon League hides mysteries behind its structure. The Elite Four members represent the elemental foundations of the region: ice, fighting spirit, poison, and psychic potential, suggesting they weren't chosen randomly. Some players theorize that the Indigo Plateau acts as a kind of spiritual capstone for all of Kanto and Johto combined. The reason it sits so far north, tucked away behind powerful natural barriers, may be because the plateau is built atop an ancient energy site once revered by early civilizations. Lore from Johto hints that champions are considered wardens of balance, tasked with maintaining harmony between the two regions. This idea turns the Elite Four from simple battle obstacles into symbolic keepers of elemental equilibrium. Then there is the Silence Bridge Route 12's long, quiet boardwalk over calm waters. Many believe its name is literal, representing a place where people walked in quiet reflection after the events of the conflict hinted at through the region's demographics. The presence of Snorlax blocking the path has always felt metaphorical to fans, an embodiment of stagnant grief or lost memories preventing progress. Only the Poke Flute, a gentle awakening song, can move it. Some theorists interpret this as symbolic healing. The only way to move past a region's trauma is through music, memory, and reconnection with what's been lost. It's a subtle detail, but the emotional meaning resonates strongly with players who feel that Kanto's silence speaks louder than its cities ever could. And yet, perhaps the most elegant theory is that Kanto was never meant to be fully explained. Its mysteries weren't designed as puzzles to solve, but as spaces to wonder about. Every unanswered question, the war, the ghosts, the psychic children, the extraterrestrial Clefairy, the strange energy sites, the ancient ruins, the atmospheric legendaries, creates a sense of depth that allows Kanto to feel alive decades later. The ambiguity becomes atmosphere. The loose ends feel like history rather than plot holes. Kanto feels like a region that existed long before the player arrived and will continue existing long after the journey ends. And in that quiet, lingering uncertainty lies the region's lasting magic stories that breathe through silence, mysteries that sleep beneath familiar ground, and theories that drift through memory like soft wind across Pallet Town's grass at night. Kanto has always been a region built on secrets layered beneath familiar landscapes, and the deeper you look, the more its mysteries begin to overlap in ways that feel intentional. As the stories unfold, you start to feel like every route, every cave, and every abandoned structure holds echoes of a larger, unseen history. One theory that fans continue to revisit revolves around the subtle shift in Kanto's ecology across generations, not just in species distribution, but in the behavior of the Pokemon themselves. Some players believe the region is slowly healing after decades of industrial and scientific experimentation, with the natural world gradually reclaiming areas once heavily impacted by human ambition. The slow restoration of the power plant, the regrowth surrounding Cinnabar after the volcanic eruption, and even the increased presence of wildlife along coastal routes in later games are seen as hints that nature in Kanto is rebalancing after generations of disruption. Another long-lived theory focuses on the strange sense of déjà vu that many players experience when comparing ancient ruins across different regions. The statues found in Kanto's Pokemon Mansion, with their sharp shapes and enigmatic eyes, look eerily similar to early carvings discovered in Sinnoh and Johto. Some fans speculate that Kanto once had its own civilization with a deep understanding of Pokemon biology, a culture that existed long before modern Pokeballs, before the League, before the cities we know today. These ancient people may have lived in harmony with powerful species before their knowledge scattered across regions. The fact that the Pokemon Mansion holds genetic notes, fossil documentation, and failed experiments suggests the island could have once been a site of rediscovered knowledge rather than new invention, and that the scientists merely inherited what ancient cultures already knew. Mount Moon continues to be one of the most persistent sources of theories, and one that ties closely into this idea of forgotten civilizational memory. The belief that the meteor crash that created Clefairy's habitat brought something more than cosmic debris has fueled speculation for decades. Some players think Mount Moon may have been a meeting point for early humans and extraterrestrial Pokemon, a place where contact between worlds shaped traditions now long forgotten. The moonstone fragments scattered through its caves may be remnants of a greater celestial object that altered the region's natural evolution, giving rise to types and behaviors unique to Kanto. Even the fossils found nearby could be interpreted as evidence that ancient species either adapted to or were transformed by the cosmic energy that lingered long after the impact. Lavender Town extends these mysteries into an emotional realm. One theory that persists is that the town's distinct melancholy atmosphere is connected not only to the Pokemon Tower, but to something deeper beneath the soil. The idea is that the ground itself is ancient burial earth, layered over centuries, carrying memories of conflicts long forgotten. This could explain why the tower needed to be built vertically rather than horizontally, as if constructing it on top of already sacred ground was the only respectful way to handle the countless remains below. The lack of music variation in early versions of the game adds to the thought that the town has a fixed emotional resonance, one that extends beyond human understanding. Some theorists believe sensitive Pokemon like Ghastly or Cubone are drawn here not because of death alone, but because they sense an older spiritual energy that resonates with the emotions of the living. Connected to Lavender is the theory that Cubone's lineage once included a more stable communal species, one that lived peacefully until a regional catastrophe fractured their family structure. The idea stems from the fact that Cubone is the only Pokemon known to wear the skull of its deceased parent as a natural cultural behavior. Some believe this tradition began as a way to protect themselves from predators or supernatural threats that plagued early Kanto, and over generations became a biological instinct. The emotional sorrow embedded into Cubone's lore may be a cultural memory passed down through DNA, a concept increasingly explored in modern science as well. In this interpretation, Cubone isn't inherently tragic. It's historically resilient, carrying the lessons of its ancestors in physical form. The burned diary inside Cinnabar Island's Pokemon Mansion remains one of the most compelling pieces of Kanto storytelling. One theory suggests the scientist who recorded the birth of Mewtwo wasn't just documenting a scientific breakthrough, but expressing remorse for a discovery they weren't supposed to uncover. The quiet tone of the diary entries, the fragmented dates, and the lack of detailed technical information lead some fans to think the writer deliberately withheld data to prevent replication by others. The mansion's destruction could be interpreted as a final attempt to keep the experiment contained, as if the island itself demanded secrecy. Some players believe the volcano erupting later was more symbolic than geological, a kind of reset for the island, restoring it to a natural state after years of tampering. Viridian Forest continues to inspire theories about ancient guardians. Many believe that the unusually high presence of bug-type Pokemon, especially the Kakuna and Weedle lines, suggests the forest has always been protected by natural sentinels. The idea is that these species developed a defensive ecosystem over centuries, evolving not through battle but through cooperation. Beedrill's aggressive swarm behavior may have originally existed to defend the region from early human settlement or predators who threatened the forest's delicate balance. That defensive instinct may still linger in their DNA, explaining why the forest remains largely untouched even as cities expand around it. Cerulean Cave remains one of the region's most enduring mysteries. Some fans theorize that the cave wasn't a natural formation, but a site created by the Pokemon League to contain overwhelming power. Its placement at the edge of the region, requiring multiple badges to enter, could imply that the League is aware of the energy within and chooses to restrict access. The abundance of strong Pokemon inside suggests the cave draws them in, possibly feeding off a magnetic anomaly or ancient relic buried deep within its chambers. Mewtwo's presence could be less of a coincidence and more of a natural pull, the cave serving as a cradle for power drawn toward power. Saffron City brings speculation of its own, the presence of the Silph headquarters in such a central location has led many fans to suspect that the company is more intertwined with the Pokemon League than the games ever admit. One theory suggests Silph may have been involved in early Pokeball development through experimental methods now considered unethical. The advanced technology found within their building, such as teleport pads and prototype weaponized devices, hints at a history that predates public awareness. The fact that Team Rocket infiltrated Silph so effectively adds weight to the idea that something valuable, something hidden, lies beneath the surface of the building. Saffron is also home to Sabrina, whose psychic abilities fuel countless theories. Some fans believe her powers stem from a mutation unique to Kanto, possibly linked to the same energy that influences psychic-type Pokemon in the region. The fact that her powers manifested at a young age suggests a genetic origin, and players often theorize that she may be distantly related to ancient psychic tribes from Sinnoh or Hisui. Her stoic personality and eerily calm demeanor mirror the Pokemon she commands, leading some to believe psychic sensitivity in humans existed long before Pokeballs or modern battles, a remnant of a time when people communicated with Pokemon through instinct rather than speech. The Seafoam Islands, often overlooked, continue to stir theories about deep-sea ecosystems unique to Kanto. Some believe the cold currents swirling around the islands are remnants of ancient glacial flows that once connected the region to Johto. The idea is supported by the presence of rare Pokemon adapted to frigid temperatures, leading some fans to speculate that the islands might be part of a forgotten migration path from the Ice Peak caverns described in Johto myths. The shifting currents beneath the islands suggest something massive lurks deep below, perhaps a dormant titan or a slumbering Pokemon whose presence subtly shapes the region's tides. The recurring presence of abandoned or partially destroyed buildings across Kanto has fueled another theory that the region has endured far more disasters than the games explicitly acknowledge. Between the destroyed Cinnabar Mansion, the decayed power plant, and the eerie silence of the Pokemon Tower, players suspect Kanto's history may have included conflicts or experiments that stripped resources or destabilized regions. The idea that Kanto quietly rebuilds itself over generations, covering wounds with forests, caves, and new towns, makes the region feel older than its modern facade suggests. These ideas weave together to create a picture of Kanto as a region defined not by heroic battles, but by subtle histories. It's a place where stories are hidden in architecture, where caves remember footsteps long gone, and where every Pokemon seems to carry echoes of a forgotten world. The beauty of Kanto's mysteries lies not in how loudly they present themselves, but in how softly they ask you to look deeper. And the longer you explore, the more you feel that beneath the familiar landscape, the region is still whispering, waiting for someone patient enough to listen. Kanto's mysteries continue to stretch outward like threads of old stories woven into the world, and the deeper one pulls at those threads, the more the region feels like a living puzzle, ancient, quiet, and layered with meaning. One of the most enduring theories in Kanto revolves around Silphco and the possibility that their technological reach extends far deeper than the games ever reveal. Across various hints, the mysterious prototypes, half-finished inventions, and sudden leaps in innovation, fans have long wondered whether Silphco once experimented with technology so advanced that even their modern devices are remnants of something older. Some believe the original warp tile technology discovered within their building wasn't something they invented at all, but something they reverse engineered from a lost era of Kanto science once tied to the ruins beneath lavender, saffron, and cerulean. Whether true or not, the idea that Silphco unlocked knowledge not meant to be found sets a haunting backdrop for its infamous takeover. Connected to that is the quiet speculation that Sabrina herself may have once been involved in the company's research. While nothing confirms it directly, her unnaturally powerful psychic abilities, her status within Saffron, and her calm yet unsettling presence have all fueled theories that she was once a prodigy consulted for dangerous psychic experiments. Some fans speculate that the psychic types in her gym, particularly Kadabra, were studied by Sylph scientists, attempting to replicate psychic waves artificially. While the series never confirms any of it, the eerie combination of a high-tech corporation, a city fueled by psychic energy, and a gym leader who seems to know much more than she ever says, creates an atmosphere where secrets feel inevitable. Even Sabrina's manga counterpart was deeply intertwined with psychic research, which only deepens the suspicion that the Saffron of the games hides far more than it reveals. Kanto's gym leaders, in general, inspire countless theories because of the way they shape the region's dynamics. Erica, for example, is often thought to be part of a much older Johto-descended botanical lineage, tying Celadon's serene gardens to traditions rooted in Ekritique and the bonsai culture of Johto's ancient clans. Her refined demeanor, tea ceremonies, and connection to natural symbolism make fans wonder if her gym is more than a simple battlefield. Perhaps it serves as a sanctuary for Kanto's lost nature traditions. If this is true, her mastery over grass types becomes not just a choice, but an inheritance, keeping alive practices Kanto has mostly forgotten during its industrial shift. Erica's gym is filled with incense, quiet rituals, and sweet scents, echoes of a culture that feels far older than the modern skyscrapers outside. Then there's Lieutenant Surge, whose background remains equally mysterious. Depending on the canon, he fought in a war, but what war? Most fans believe Surge's war references tie back to a global conflict hinted at across multiple Pokemon media. One theory suggests the war happened roughly 10 years before the events of Red and Blue, with Kanto's cities still bearing scars from that period. Regions like Vermilion, a port city, would have been strategic locations. Surge's electric-type preference might even stem from the military reliance on electric Pokémon to power machinery, disable communications, or control battlefield terrain. While the games never elaborate, Surge's hardened demeanor, strict discipline, and subtle hints of loss suggest a character shaped by conflict far larger than anything the player ever sees. Vermilion City itself has layers of potential hidden history. Many believe the SS Anne wasn't simply a luxury vessel, but part of an older trade network tied to the global economy of the Pokemon world. Its presence suggests Kanto once had bustling international ties, long before the regional isolation seen in the first games. Some fans theorize the ship may have transported rare Pokemon, fossils, or even dangerous cargo, and the mysterious harbor house, referencing a never-returning voyage, adds an eerie undertone. Was there a ship that sailed from Vermilion and never came home? A lost expedition? A disaster hidden beneath the waves? The unanswered questions make Vermilion feel like a coastline city haunted by memory. Speaking of the sea, one of the most chilling Kanto theories centers on Tentacool and Tentacruel, not their behavior, but their abundance. Routes 19 and 20 are infamous for encounter rates so high that it feels unnatural. Some fans have theorized that pollution from the power plant or chemical runoff from Celadon may have triggered a population spike, creating an ecological imbalance the game never addresses directly. Others believe Tentacruel's intelligence, hinted at in Pokédex entries, means they could be protecting something deep beneath the water, an ancient ruin or dormant organism the region has forgotten. It's an unsettling idea, imagining the swarms as guardians rather than pests, standing between humans and something they were never meant to find. Cerulean Cave, of course, remains the centerpiece of Kanto's greatest mysteries. Not just because Mewtwo resides there, but because of how out of place it feels geographically. Its high-level Pokemon, unusual layout, and isolated location have led many to believe that the cave is much older than any of the cities around it. Some fans suggest it may have once been a site of legendary importance, perhaps tied to Kanto's earliest supernatural events. Others think it may be a living scar, a place destabilized by the genetic power of Mewtwo's creation, twisting the environment and drawing strong Pokemon toward its center. Mewtwo's presence there feels less like a simple hiding spot and more like a gravitational consequence, as though beings of immense psychic power are naturally drawn to places where the world is thin. Cerulean Cave also connects to the unsettling question of why Kanto's champion never seeks Mewtwo. Some fans speculate that the League knows exactly what Mewtwo is and chooses to avoid provoking it. Lance, Giovanni, and even Professor Oak may all have reasons for pretending the cave is empty. Perhaps they fear what waking such power could do, and that silence is safer than acknowledgement. Lavender Town's mysteries, naturally, form the backbone of Kanto's darker legends. The Pokemon Tower, a structure unlike anything else in the region, remains shrouded in speculation. One theory suggests that the tower's strange energy isn't caused by ghost Pokemon alone, but by an ancient ley line, a natural spiritual conduit that amplifies supernatural forces. This would explain why grief, memory, and emotion seem to intensify within its walls. Some go further, believing the tower was built specifically where that ley line intersects with another beneath Mount Moon, creating a spiritual corridor connecting multiple points of Kanto's past. It's only a theory, but it would explain why Kanto has so many haunted or supernatural hotspots despite being a relatively small region. Another haunting Lavender theory involves the identity of the ghost that appears before obtaining the Sylph Scope. While canon says it's a Marowak, Some fans interpret it symbolically, the ghost acting as a manifestation of Kanto's unresolved mourning, representing all Pokemon lost during the war or disasters never spoken of. In that interpretation, the Marowak simply gives the ghost a form, but the fear and heaviness come from something much older. This idea paints Kanto as a region shaped not just by progress and technology, but by unspoken sorrow woven into its foundations. The Safari Zone, seemingly cheerful and fun, hides its own mysteries. Fans often wonder why such exotic Pokemon appear nowhere else in Kanto. Where did they come from? Were they imported illegally? Some believe the Safari Zone served as a protective sanctuary for endangered Pokemon from other regions, supported by wealthy patrons long before the League became involved. Others speculate that Fuchsia's aging warden once discovered a hidden valley or portal-like area, capturing Pokemon that existed outside the normal boundaries of the region. There's even a theory that the Safari Zone's abrupt closure in later generations wasn't due to funding, but because something dangerous was found in its deeper areas. Mount Moon and the possibility of extraterrestrial influence is a theory that refuses to fade. Clefairy's behavior during moonlit dances, the presence of moonstones, and meteor fragments have all convinced fans that something cosmic happened there long ago. Some believe Clefairy are descendants of an ancient spacefaring species that lost their ability to travel. Others theorize that Mount Moon is not just a mountain, but a remnant of a celestial impact, a crater powerful enough to create rifts in the environment. This would explain the abundant fossils, the strange mineral formations, and the lingering supernatural energy. If Mount Moon truly carries cosmic memory, then Kanto's origins may be tied not just to ancient Earth, but to the stars. This cosmic connection also ties into speculation surrounding Bill, whose teleportation experiments may have accidentally tapped into the same energy that influenced Mount Moon. Some fans believe Bill's research wasn't just technological, it was metaphysical, interacting with dimensions similar to those explored by later regions. His transformation mishap with the Clefairy might not have been an accident at all, but a glimpse into the ancient link between Pokemon biology and cosmic energy. Bill may have stepped into forces older than Kanto itself, mirroring the mysteries surrounding Deoxys and the extraterrestrial Pokemon that appear far away in other regions. Even simple objects in Kanto can spark theories. The existence of repels, escape ropes, and evolutionary stones suggests that modern Pokemon society is built upon knowledge collected across centuries. How long have humans understood Pokemon evolution? Why do stones trigger transformation? Some believe they are remnants of ancient rituals tied to nature spirits, later industrialized into items. Others think stones are crystallized fragments of energy left behind by mythical Pokemon, with their evolution-triggering abilities being a lingering echo of those entities' powers. Through all of these theories, Kanto reveals itself as a region defined as much by silence as by story. Its legends are never fully explained, its mysteries never resolved, its characters never completely understood. It's a region where every shadow, every ruined building, every quiet forest seems to hold a memory that players can feel but never quite reach. And perhaps that's why Kanto endures, because it invites imagination. It asks players to fill in the gaps, to wonder what lies beneath its surface, to sense the invisible history woven into its mountains, caves, and cities. Every unanswered question becomes an invitation to dream. Kanto has always carried an aura of quiet mystery, a sense that beneath the familiar routes and well-known landmarks, something older and deeper sleeps. Every player has walked the same roads, through Viridian's tall grass, into Mount Moon's tunnels, across the Seafoam Islands, Yet each step feels like it leaves a faint echo of questions no one will ever fully answer. Some Pokemon regions feel discovered. Kanto feels remembered, as if the world had known these stories long before anyone carved the first gym badge. And so the theories surrounding Kanto never really fade. They evolve, growing softer and stranger each time someone retells them, transforming into the kind of lore that lulls the mind towards sleep. One enduring theory is that Kanto's landscape reflects a history of war far older than the subtle hints in the games. Players have long wondered why so few adult men appear in towns, why large cities like Saffron and Celadon are structured with long, defensive streets, or why so many Pokédex entries describe Pokémon developed for combat. The theory suggests that the region rebuilt itself around silence, removing overt reminders of conflict while leaving traces in the terrain. The tunnels beneath Rock Tunnel, the sealed doors inside Mount Moon, and the scattered ruins on cycling paths all hint at structures repurposed over generations. Whether intended or not, the effect creates a world where peace exists, but the memory of tension lingers softly beneath it, like the faint hum of an old machine that never fully powered down. Lavender Town remains one of the most theory-rich places in Kanto, a location shaped by collective memory rather than physical evidence. The Pokemon Tower's height, its narrow design, and its quiet atmosphere have always inspired questions. Some fans imagine that the tower predates the town itself, built first as a spiritual anchor and later surrounded by a growing settlement. Others think the tower is far younger, erected hurriedly during a period when ghost-type Pokemon became unusually active. Then there's the idea that the gentle hum of Lavender Town's environment suggests electromagnetic activity beneath the soil, not supernatural, but geological, a subtle force that naturally attracts ghost Pokemon. If true, then Lavender Town isn't haunted, it's resonant, vibrating at a frequency that makes the boundary between worlds feel thinner. That boundary becomes even more interesting when looking at the old man in the Pokemon Tower who mentions his granddaughter's favorite radio. It's such a small moment, but theories grew from it, suggesting that the tower once acted as a communication site before it became a burial ground. Some believe the building was repurposed, its height originally intended for transmitting radio signals across the mountains. When Lavender Town's culture shifted and spiritual needs replaced technological ones, the structure might have taken on a new identity. The mixture of technology and mourning found inside the tower, radios, mediums, families visiting graves, wandering spirits, gives the sense of a place layered with stories rather than a single purpose. And that, in turn, deepens the theory that the tower serves as a bridge, not just between the living and the dead, but between past and present. Mount Moon fuels another category of theories, one centered on cosmic influence, the presence of Clefairy, the meteorite fragments scattered around the caves, and the large crater outside the entrance all point to a long-standing connection between Kanto and extraterrestrial events. Some fans believe that Mount Moon is not a mountain formed through natural geology, but the settled remains of an ancient impact that deposited spaceborne material beneath the surface. This would explain why moonstones appear so frequently there, and why certain species exhibit unusual evolutionary properties when exposed to them. Others take it further, imagining that Clefairy themselves may have originated from a place beyond Earth, drawn to Mount Moon not because it's home, but because it feels like one. The quiet dances performed by Clefairy under the night sky take on a more poetic tone in that light, rituals meant not to summon power, but to remember where they once came from. Cerulean Cave reinforces this extraterrestrial theory, its hidden depths containing species that feel almost displaced, Pokemon too rare and powerful to appear anywhere else. Mewtwo, of course, is the centerpiece of this mystery. Some players theorize that Cerulean Cave wasn't chosen at random as its hideout. Instead, they believe Mewtwo was instinctively drawn to the cave's energy, sensing faint echoes of the same cosmic resonance found in Mount Moon. If Kanto has pockets of extraterrestrial frequency beneath its surface, then Cerulean Cave may be another of those sites, shaped by forces that predate civilization. That makes Mewtwo's presence not a coincidence, but a biological return to equilibrium, a being created unnaturally but seeking a place that feels natural. Seafoam Islands, likewise, are filled with mysteries that inspire gentle speculation. Some believe the islands were once part of a much larger landmass that slowly eroded, leaving behind a chain of hollowed structures that conceal deep, ancient waterways. Articuno's presence adds a mythic dimension to this theory. Instead of living there permanently, Articuno may migrate between frozen microclimates across Kanto, using the islands only as a midpoint. The idea suggests that players see only a small fraction of the legendary bird's path, the moment where it rests between journeys spanning seasons or continents. That sense of partial visibility, glimpsing only the tail end of a legend, is what makes Seafoam's silence feel so profound. Saffron City inspires theories of a different tone, ones rooted in psychic phenomenon. Sabrina's gym, with its teleportation pads and minimalist rooms, has led many to wonder whether the building exists fully in physical space. The theory proposes that parts of the gym exist slightly shifted, like a building phased between two layers of reality. The teleporters aren't technology, but psychic constructs, powered subconsciously by Sabrina herself. When trainers enter, they're walking through corridors shaped by thought rather than architecture. It's not literal warping, but symbolic, a building reflecting the mindset of its leader. The gym becomes a place where logic breaks so intuition can guide the way, mirroring Sabrina's own internal conflict between control and emotion. Meanwhile, the Sylph Co. building across the street generates theories about Kanto's technological future. Some believe Sylph Co. is responsible for more than just Pokeballs and gadgets, possibly even early forms of energy manipulation that influence the creation of creatures like Porygon. Because the company stands so close to Sabrina's domain, fans theorize that psychic influence may have played a role in its research. Experiments involving thought-powered devices or communication through psychic wavelengths might have been scrapped or hidden, leaving behind strange machines scattered throughout the building. This partnership between science and psychic energy creates a subtle theme in the region that Kanto develops through intuition as much as technology. One of the gentlest Kanto theories centers on Pallet Town. Despite its simplicity, players often imagine that the town sits atop a far older settlement, one that eroded or faded into nature long before Kanto's modern era. The idea stems from how peaceful Pallet feels, as if the land itself carries a kind of memory. Theories say that the town's quiet atmosphere is not just design, but a remnant of something ancient, a calm that settled over the area long before Professor Oak arrived. Some imagine that Oak's research laboratory was built over the remains of an older observatory, explaining why his interest in Pokemon behavior leans so heavily on patterns and evolution rather than raw data. In this version of Kanto's past, Pallet Town becomes the ending point of a forgotten story, a village that fell asleep peacefully and woke up as something new. Vermilion City carries its own sense of depth. The constant presence of ships, sailors, and travel hints that the city once served as the main gateway between Kanto and distant regions long before the series introduced places like Hoenn and Sinnoh. Fans imagine that the harbor was once a place where cultures traded not only goods, but Pokemon species and traditions. This leads to a theory that certain Kanto Pokemon, like Farfetch'd or Kangaskhan, arrived through ancient trade routes long before Pokeballs existed, establishing populations that blended so naturally into Kanto that no one questioned their origins. The S Anne becomes a symbol of this history, not just a cruise ship, but the last remnant of a time when Kanto was more connected than players realized. Even Team Rocket's storyline inspires theories about Kanto's past. Some fans believe the crime organization didn't emerge randomly, but was formed in response to a power vacuum left after an older governing body collapsed. This would explain the scattered, abandoned buildings in places like the Safari Zone or Fuchsia City's outskirts, remnants of institutions no longer active. The theory proposes that Rocket sought to reclaim control over resources rather than simply steal them, positioning themselves as successors to a force that once held Kanto together. While the games never confirm this, it adds a quiet complexity to the region, suggesting that beneath Kanto's calm surface lies a history of shifting power. And yet, for all its theories, the beauty of Kanto is that none of them need answers. The region thrives on its ambiguity. The old mansions of Cinnabar, the ruins beneath Mount Moon, the ghostly whispers in Lavender Town, the mysterious energy of Cerulean Cave. All of these places feel like dreams. They don't demand explanations, they invite reflection. They make the mind wander slowly, gently, toward possibilities rather than conclusions. That is what makes Kanto perfect for sleep lore. It is a region built not on certainty, but on memory, myth, and quiet wonder. And somewhere, beneath its soft starlit roots, under the calm rustle of Viridian's trees and the distant crash of waves against Cinnabar's cliffs, Kanto continues to dream, its mysteries unspoken, its stories half-remembered, its secrets resting peacefully beneath the moonlit sky, waiting for those who walk slowly enough to notice them.